Your information station. WTIM.
It's the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Glad to have you along your stream on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com's Facebook and WTIM TV YouTube, brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. Well, the governor is planning a state of the state and budget message combined Wednesday, and here to talk a little bit about it, I have Professor Emeritus with the University of Illinois Springfield for Political Science, Dr. Kent Redfield. Great to have you back here, Dr. Redfield.
Good to be here.
So tell me, it's been a little while since Governor Pritzker has addressed both chambers. It's been a couple of years, in fact, right?
Yeah. I mean, with the COVID, they just were not meeting. And so, that it's not quite like the presidential State of the Union, but it does kind of, add some ceremony and gets everybody together and stuff. And it's kind of a kickoff of the legislative session. So
Right.
it's a little more back to normal.
Kind of like an unveiling of the agenda, so to speak.
Exactly.
Right. What do you feel will be more consequential, the State of the State address or the budget address?
I don't know that we're going to have a great deal of surprises in terms of the State of the State, because he kind of, previewed that in terms of his inaugural address. And he talked about accomplishments, and he talked about, ticked off some things in terms of, wanting to do early childhood development and more funding for education and, both K through 12 and higher ed. Talked a little bit about tuition in relation to higher ed. We're in a pretty good budget situation. A lot of that due to the COVID funding, and so, but we're, even though we've had a couple of good years, we have a pretty, our underlying structure is pretty tight, and so. I don't know you're going to have a lot of discussion of kind of, the big things, which are the impact that pension debt has on our ability, limits us in terms of what we can fund. And then, that because we can't provide relief as much funding for schools as K through 12, that puts pressure on property taxes. So, those are the two big problems that are sitting out there that I don't know that we're going to have, I wouldn't expect a lot of discussion about that. We're going to talk about, things being good, and here are some things that we're going to do.
So it sounds like, based on what you're saying, someone watching the budget address might get a better idea of what Governor Pritzker pictures for the next 2, maybe 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, he has an opportunity now because of, we're ending COVID. He's going to announce the ends of the state of emergency. That's being delayed because it's necessary to spend some of the federal money. But this is, in a sense, his first term was certainly interrupted, in fact, dominated by COVID. So, we'll get a picture of where he thinks we ought to be going, and that's pretty stable for the next 2 years. But because of our problems with pension debt, because of the revenue structure that we have, we're one recession, one world crisis away from being back into having tough budgets and tough decisions. So the picture looks, he'll present a picture that's optimistic and reasonably accurate for the next year, 2 years. But there's still things down the road that that need to be addressed if we're going to really get at some of the state's underlying problems.
With the disaster declaration ending in, I believe, May, is that correct, Dr. Redfield?
Yeah,
okay. With it ending in May, how does that impact the budget, if it does at all?
Well, it doesn't. What it signals is the end of all of the stimulus and COVID money that we have gotten, both under and the stimulus under President Trump and then under President Biden, and so we are going to be reliant on kind of the revenue structure that the governor inherited when he got into office. And because of pension debt, because of budget standoffs, I mean, we had these huge unpaid, billions of dollars of unpaid bills. We're kind of back to even in terms of all of that. We've added cannabis and gambling money, which is designated for for specific purposes. We have a gas tax which is dedicated to infrastructure. So all of those things mean we're in a better situation than we were 4 years ago. But we're still having to spend, I think 19% of kind of the basic budget involves paying down pension debt, in terms of kind of the general revenue fund. And as long as that's sitting out there, that's going to limit our ability to do more than he's proposing in things like early childhood development or to get into property tax relief. We're pretty limited long term. So I don't want to give, this is not, we don't have a crisis looming in the next 12 months or something, but the problems that he inherited when he took office 4 years ago, the underlying big drivers of what the state does are, they're still being stressed by those kinds of factors, and the attempt to get the graduated income tax, which would have shifted the tax burden more to higher income people, but also would have increased revenue. That was an attempt to kind of get out from under the things that have been, plaguing Illinois really since, the Ryan administration. That obviously failed. We're not going to go, we're not going to revisit a graduated income tax, even though some people, talk about, well, we in the legislature have kind of talked about, well, we ought to go back and, get more revenue. But I think the governor needs to show, and the state government needs to show that, they can manage what we have and do a good job and rebuild confidence. If they're going to ask the public for more, they certainly have to do a better job of spending what we have and solving the problems we have.
Dr. Redfield, let's play a game for a moment, if you don't mind. Say you are advising Governor Pritzker for his State of the State address. Is there a topic of discussion that you would advise him to avoid?
Yeah, I mean, he will talk about crime and I think but it's very hard for him to talk about exactly what the state's posture is until we finish the litigation involving no cash bail and involving assault weapons. And so that's kind of a, to be determined kind of part of this. So, he can say, we've got things in place that we think are going to address it, but, he can't really talk about, we can build on what we've done because we really don't know whether that's going to exist, 6 months from now, whether we'll still have no cash bail or an assault weapons ban. So I think that's, he's going to talk about things that, he certainly will hit reproductive rights, but and that's a positive in terms of, the people that, that voted for him, his reelection constituency. But he can't really talk about how we're going to move forward on crime until we know essentially what's what's the playing field? And until that litigation finishes, we're not going to know that.
I want to talk more about no cash bail and the ban of assault weapons during this next segment. That's University of Illinois Professor Emeritus for Political Science Department, Dr. Kent Redfield, right here on the WTIM Morning Show. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville. You always do better with Landmark at People's Bank and Trust. They put people first.
WTIM.
First pick, Farmers Select.
Optonite technology from Corteva Agriscience. Boom. I'm going for a pretzel.
The pick is in. Optonite technology from Corteva Agriscience with Inserve and Instinct Next-Gen nitrogen stabilizers.
This is Becky Edwards, owner of B&G Administrative Services in Taylorville, your link to a better business day. I am proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the Miller Media Group B&G Administrative Services Business of the Month.
Ron and Teresa Wiltsey opened Southern Ledge Pools and Patios at 306 East Main Cross in Taylorville in April of 2017, providing a local source for all things pools, including sales and maintenance, plus outdoor kitchens, fire pits, and much more. And they've added outdoor furniture, simple syrups, spices, and anything to make your outdoor fun more enjoyable. They're also involved in the United Way, Chamber of Commerce, and the Christian County Lead Program. They're a great part of our Taylorville community.
B&G Administrative Services congratulates this month's Business of the Month. Find out more on our services by going to bngadmin.com.
In addition to great radio marketing, the Miller Media Group now offers a full suite of digital marketing solutions. Our affordable programs include custom web design and SEO to help you get found on Google. Seeking more inbound web and store traffic? Our Facebook, YouTube, and geo-targeted marketing programs are all designed to make your cash register ring. To get started, call your Miller Media account manager or go to mmgdigitalnow.com. Miller Media Digital, where digital becomes local.
By leveraging sustainable carbon management solutions like Navigator CO2's Heartland Greenway, ethanol facilities can make substantial progress toward carbon reduction objectives. Learn more on how they're partnering with ethanol producers across the Corn Belt. Click their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
The Shelby County Economic Development Corporation aims to foster, promote, and stimulate economic development. They're here to help your business grow. Find out more on the Shelby County Economic Development Corporation by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
It's the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. People's Bank and Trust proud to present this stream on TaylorvilleDailyNews.com's Facebook and WTIM TV YouTube. They put people first. Along with Landmark of Taylorville, you always do better with Landmark. Professor Emeritus Dr. Kent Redfield providing a bit of an overview of the state address and budget address for Governor J.B. Pritzker Wednesday afternoon. And before going to break, he talked a little bit about how the no cash bail and the ban of assault weapons are still in litigation. There's a lot to cover in that. Thinking back to about a month ago, what has changed since you and me last talked, Dr. Redfield? Anything, or just kind of much the same with the litigation process?
Yeah, we've continued to get some temporary restraining orders that cover a limited set of people or a limited number of counties in terms of the assault weapons ban. Those are that's being litigated in terms of the state constitution rather than the main arena for what the fate of the assault weapons ban will be in the federal courts, and that's something that will take time. The Supreme Court, it may await to get some different rulings from different judicial districts throughout the country, which would give them an opportunity to kind of clarify exactly what the new set of precedents are. I mean, with the decision that was made in the New York case that kind of started, signaled that we're rethinking, how we're going to approach the Second Amendment, was a case involving concealed carry. And so people are projecting, well, this is going to have this kind of an effect on an assault weapons ban or on red flag laws in terms of preempting, taking weapons away from in, say, a domestic violence situation. We really don't know. The court was 6-3 overturning the very restrictive concealed carry law in New York. But, Justice Kavanaugh did a separate opinion that was much more nuanced than the opinion that came from Thomas. And, if you got Kavanaugh and Roberts to sign on with the three liberal justices, you could get a much less dramatic change than people expected. It is, we really don't know. On the no cash bail, that will, the Supreme Court is going to take, they're accepting briefs, and there will be some kind of hearing, I think in March. Again, you would, this is 5 of the judges were elected as Democrats, 2 were elected or appointed as Republicans. I don't, but again, this is a court that is very new. The 2 downstate Republican judges, one was just appointed, one was elected 2 years ago. We have 2 new judges in suburban districts, and one of the 3 judges from Chicago was just from Cook County was just elected. And so, you can't say, well, the court is, this is the way they always deal with these issues. So the no cash bail will be resolved, sometime in the summer. Whereas you could easily see the assault weapon ban, in terms of a definitive statement from the Supreme Court. That's more, that's at least more than a year away.
Interesting. All right. I appreciate the breakdown, Dr. Redfield. Let's take a look at a national perspective. I understand your expertise is more in the chamber side of politics and more on Illinois politics, but I think this is just too big to not mention. 4 different UFOs shot down over the last week. One, of course, the Chinese air balloon, 3 others, one over Lake Huron. What do you make of this? I mean, I don't even really know what to make of it. I'm seeing what you make of it. If you think of anything of it, I suppose.
I think, again, my understanding limited on the technology side.
Of course.
It appears that some of this involves really readjusting surveillance and the radar, the way that we how finely we target things, how we go about that. And so there's probably been some kind of low level, and again, balloons are not exactly high technology. There's probably been a lot of this going on, and now in the face of that Chinese balloon and that was so visible, then I think they've taken, we certainly have, my impression is we've taken a second look at kind of how seriously we're taking this kind of surveillance and trying to adjust our technological capabilities. And then being aggressive.
Right. Reevaluating kind of your strategy a bit. Thank you so much, Dr. Redfield. That's all the time we have.
Okay. Good to talk to you.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.
I'm Rich Thomason, saying it's time for a new generation of leadership. Former GOP governor and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley